Good evening, ballers, heroes, and ballettes. Not only this week were we discovered to be the highest rated viewed channel in gaming by ladies. Oh, that feels so good. But we also released a podcast and we've got all sorts of other shit to do. Tonight's the workshop, heroes. Let's get it started. What's up, ballers? It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining me on this Saturday night and tearing yourself away from the soccer for an evening. Thank you very, very much for that. Of course, the soccer, as I like to call it, because it really annoys football fans. Yeah, if you want to troll some football fans, especially in the UK and Europe, you call that shit soccer, especially if you don't like it, like me. I don't like football, so I call it soccer, and that really fucking annoys absolutely everybody. So a big fucking bro fist to you guys. And that was a complete miscue. I totally missed my bro fist. Boom! There it is. It's bigger than the screen. It's looking fantastic. Those are the hairy knuckles of Preach. As you can see, I am wearing my shirt this evening. And why is that? Because it is workshop night. And we get a little bit serious on the workshop. It's not all fun and jovial and just having a great time in World of Warcraft. Tonight we're going to teach you how to become ballers. Take you from an average player, rolling around in your heroic groups, and generally maybe having a little bit of a bad time. Sometimes you might even get kicked. And that really sucks. I have a feeling I'm zoomed in. Wait for it, wait for it. Oh! So slick, so easy. Preacher makes it look so smooth. For the lucky guys who were waiting before the show started, they were treated to my very, very first ever video that I made of me playing World of Warcraft. And it in fact shows that we all started somewhere. It's got maximum clicking, some sweet 1k crits, and it will never, ever, ever appear on my YouTube channel. Unless we hit 100,000 subscribers, then I'll happily upload it so you guys can see where our origins are. So 100,000 subscribers. I'm pretty safe there for a few months, I believe, and therefore you guys can show it. So, those guys were luckily enough treated to that. Couple of announcements. You may have seen on the YouTube channel a request for rogues, a video called a request for rogues. What is the request for rogues? We are shooting a rather large movie. As we have access to a video editor by the name of Untrill, lots of you who've followed me for a while will know who he is. He's very skilled at doing various bits of stuff. We are making a rather large, lengthy movie. Something we want to be remembered for. Sure, I'll be remembered for guides and all that kind of stuff, and that's great, that's funky stuff. But what we want to do now, I've moved into full-time YouTube. That's right, we've gone full-time. You'll notice around 2 videos a day going up on my channel. Is we wanted something rather epic, and we wanted to really push him to the limit. And we have done that. So I'm just going to give you a little snippet of something that he has created that will be a part of this movie. Hopefully I've messed up my key bindings. Oh, let's see if that switches up. It doesn't appear so. No, wrong button. There we go. Okay, wrong button. But are you ready? Oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Super slow-mo! Oh my god. It's all going to be funky stuff. There's all going to be all sorts of clips like that going into it. And you guys will get the full benefit of being able to see that stuff. There's going to be a lengthy movie, around about 20 minutes in length. What we require is rogues. We need a lot of rogues for our finale shot, our big final shot. And now some people have been saying, can I bring a druid? Can I do this? No, we need rogues. We need rogues and lots of them. And we need you a week today at this exact time next week. This exact time. So there's at least 105 of you in the channel right now. We need a level 5 rogue. You can be higher level if you want, but we need you to be at least level 5 and on EU Sylvanas. You can be Horde or Alliance. Horde would be easier, but I don't mind either way. I'm just worried if you're Alliance, some people will try and gank you. And that would suck. We don't want dead bodies and we don't want PvP. We're going for a big finale shot and you guys can all be a part of it. Yeah! So what you need to do is be here 1 week today at the live web show that we do with me and Ghosty, and we will film it just before. So it'll actually be like an hour before the web show. We're going to get all set up and we're going to get this filmed. And all we need you to do is have a level 5 rogue capable of being in stealth. That's all you need to be able to do, is just be in stealth. Just be able to be in stealth. That's all that matters. You can be an orc, you can be a troll, you can be an undead, you can be whatever the hell you want to be. Be a blelf, be a goblin. Doesn't matter at all. We will mass summon you to the location. Location will, of course, be kept super secret because, quite frankly, we don't want people ruining the shot. If there's any classes in there that aren't rogues, that's going to make it really awkward for us. So we're going to get you guys online, get a load of raids set up, and mass summon you all to the location and try and get the shots rather quickly. So we will be talking you through what we need you guys to do just before we start, and then summoning you guys in to do that. So if you would like to be a part of a Preach production, hopefully one of the bigger ones, then this is going to be quite a large series, so we may be asking for other classes in the future, but for this particular shot that we're going to shoot, it's going to be the big finale of our video. We need a lot of rogues. So if you have the free time and you EU Sylvanas, come ahead and join us. Level 5 is all you need to do. It takes you about 20 minutes. And if you want to, speak to somebody in Stark Industries, and you can talk to the rest of the ballers as well. That's one of the guilds on EU Sylvanas on the Horde side. Very, very cool. Very, very easy. If you're on the US servers, not a big deal. If you go to preachgaming.com, there are tons of threads of how you can switch and make a free account on the EU in time for the show, so it won't cost you anything and you can be a part of the movie as well. We don't like leaving you US guys out of there. All you Australian guys, you guys are awesome. You wake up at 5 AM to watch our show. We love you guys. So if you want to be a part of it as well, no big deal. preachgaming.com. Plenty of the people down in the chat will show you exactly where you need to be and how you can do that. So if you're in the US or any of those servers, it doesn't matter. You can make a nice free account on the EU servers and come and play with us on the web show and be a part of the movie. It should be very cool. If we get a lot of rogues, it should be very, very cool. Very cool. So that will be a week today. Sorted. If you're interested in that stuff and you want to know a little bit more, check out the video A Request for Rogues on my channel. It's Mike Preach Wow, and then you can sort that out there. What are we doing tonight? Well, we're doing a workshop. What we like to do is get the subscribers, you guys, to actually submit to me a video of you playing the game. Okay, so there is a video again on my channel called How to Submit to the Workshop. The issue we have with gaming in World of Warcraft is everybody's obsessed with gear. Hello, Diablo 3! Yeah, so like Diablo 3, everyone is obsessed with gear over the actual ability to play, which in many cases is not actually the case. Only the very, very top end, where most of the guys aren't playing, does the actual gear become the major defining factor of the one's DPS. It really does. In the mid-level guilds, you'll see classes that are generally considered mid-level DPS to maybe even be the top DPS, or the top DPS as being way low. And that's because they're generally playing not quite correctly, and that's something I cannot really teach you without actually seeing you play. More often than not, I get tons and tons of emails off people saying to me, Preacher, I've followed your guide, I've geared correctly, I've gemmed correctly, I've got the correct talents, but I'm just not pulling the right DPS numbers. I don't know what's wrong, I think I'm doing this wrong, I think I'm doing that. The easiest solution is submit to me a video of you playing, and there's a very, very easy method of doing that, and that again is on my channel. Send it to me at preachgaming@gmail.com. and I will do a workshop like this. And we're going to cover a couple of classes tonight. We're going to be looking at the Blood DK, and we're also going to look at the Shadow Priest. Now, both of these are very sort of similar in what they're doing. So they're going to be covering two similar topics. That's why I covered them. One thing we don't do at the workshop is I don't armor you. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I'm not interested in whether you've spec'd right or gemmed right or anything like that. That is not what I'm looking for. If you can't gem and spec right after watching one of my guides, there's a bigger issue there more than I can help you by watching you play, okay? So if you can't do that after I've submitted to you a video of exactly how to do it, then you guys need to go ahead and maybe look a little bit deeper into what you're actually doing. More often than not, I get an armory link of maybe a protection paladin who's gemmed pure strength and then asks me why he's constantly dying. There's a bigger issue there because you obviously haven't watched my video. Simple as. So what I want to do is actually see you play, because then I can spot little things coming backwards and forwards. The Shadow Priests and the Blood DK we're going to be looking at today were both running into similar situations. The Blood DK said my AOE threat is a little bit low. My AOE threat feels lower than it should be. I'm having some difficulty on some packs, that kind of stuff. The Shadow Priest was pulling generally very low DPS in his heroic dungeons. He wasn't very well geared, and we'll look at his gear in there as well. He shows us a nice demonstration of his gear. And he was pulling relatively low DPS compared to what he thought he should be pulling. And there's a very simple fix to that we can see after just reviewing the gameplay. And that's what we're going to be doing today, is just looking at these things and seeing exactly how can we fix them very, very easily. So I'm going to load up game one, which is going to be the Blood DK. Now, this video is a little bit choppy due to low FPS, but that's no big deal. Again, we're not going to be talking about armory talents. We're not going to be talking about gearing. We don't care what your item level is. It doesn't matter, because your ability to play should overcome that difficulty. And in fact, the Blood DK we're looking at didn't have survivability issues. His survivability was more than fine. His issue was threat. Now, some of you are going to be going, well, threat's really easy in Cataclysm. Yes, it is, but it's all about making sure we do the correct beginning that then makes the threat very, very easy to us later in the game. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to jump into this. Now, again, this video is going to be a little bit choppy. We're looking at Sephiroth, who's in the chat. Thank you for joining us, Sephiroth. That's fucking awesome. Thank you for joining us today. And we're going to be looking at Sephiroth's play. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit play here. Boom. Okay, first things first. Before we jump into anything else, it's very important that we point out that this UI, Seth, I apologise, this UI is absolutely horrendous. It hurts my face. We need to do some work on this UI. In fact, that's not the clip I want to show. If I go to... yeah, this in a second. This in a second. Yeah, it's a little bit choppy. We can see that. Wait for it. Wait for it. Here she comes. You sexy beast on your dragon mount. You sexy, sexy beast. Come on. There you go. Watch what happens when we hit that outbreak. Oh, what is this? Seth. Holy cow in heaven. Oh. First rule about doing our lovely, lovely UI, as always, is making sure, absolutely damn sure, that the center of our screen is always clear. We need to prioritize stuff. Every time I've demonstrated to you how to create a decent UI, I don't want you guys to try and copy mine by any means. I don't want that. Your UI should be particular to you and very important. What we do want to do is make sure that the very center of our screen is always clear, because that's where we need to see what the hell is going on. Very, very important that we do that. So putting class timer, of course, can be dragged off, and I'm sure Seth is going to go, I fucking moved it in the past. I've moved it, man, since this video was submitted. This video was submitted quite a while ago. That's cool, Seth. I'm down with that. We still love you, Seth. Don't you worry, buddy. But obviously, this is the idea of this, is that we can actually help you. So we want these dots out of the way. We want this entire area here to be completely clear. What else we need to do is we do not care as a tank whatsoever about pets. And we certainly don't want the pet bar to be so big that it takes up almost a sixth of our screen. We don't need that whatsoever. All this stuff can just be shrunk down, moved out of the way. I imagine it's actually a relatively low resolution we're playing on, because the minimap is in fact bigger than my penis. Now, let me just tell you guys that for me to go to the bathroom is a two-man job. Okay? Cool. Okay, so getting back into the game. What we want to make sure is that we keep all this shit nice and clear every single time. Let's get rid of the pet bars. It's X-Pearl unit frames, I believe, Seth. This looks like X-Pearl to me. Is that we've got just so much information going on that our play is almost secondary to our UI. Someone made the joke back then, in the back of the day, was that if do you want some WoW with those add-ons? These aren't actually that many add-ons. We've got a simple button UI, which is fine. We've got a nice unit frame UI. We've got a dot timer, which we need as a DK. And we've got a nice rune bar. Everything here is actually mandatory for a DK. To play well, we need all these things. This is not a lot of add-ons. They're just sort of placed in a kind of weird way that's really blocking our play. So moving on from the UI, we're going to see this opener. So he's got his dots on, which is cool. Now, this particular boss, this Asira Dawnslayer, a little thing you want to know is that she leaps at the very beginning of the fight and she trolls you endlessly and she dives to the other side, but that's neither here nor there to what we're looking at today. We wanted to look at some AOE threats, so we're going to skip back to our other packs. Ooh, look at this, okay? This is where the UI has gone a little bit crackers. As you can see, if we were playing in this environment, we would be struggling so much, being able to pick out what the hell was going on. All about just minimizing this stuff. I would actually go ahead and install Threat Meter. I know what you were saying was heavily based around the fact that you were having AOE threat problems, and maybe a threat meter felt like you should have something that is involved. In the current state of World of Warcraft, the threat itself is irrelevant. Threat is actually so easy to get once we get a good start that we can go ahead and just get rid of a threat meter. There's no need to be on your screen. And of course, mixed scrolling battle text is all cool, but we can turn off messages like we've got Echo of Light on us, we've got Powered Shield on us, we've got Rising Fire. We could turn all that crap off. In general, we're only interested in what our damage is and where it's coming from, and some heals on us. It's very important. The actual healing side of the bar is important, although it can feel a little spammy as a tank sometimes, because we're getting all sorts of heals from all sorts of locations. That's actually cool. That's fine and dandy. What we do want to make sure of is when we're taking certain types of damage, such as fire damage, nature damage. These can be very important to us, especially as a Death Knight, because we have the ability to mitigate that with anti-magic shell. And our Tall Barad trinket, if we've gone ahead and picked that up, is if we're tracking that and we're seeing we're taking a ton of shadow damage, or even any kind of magical damage, and we can see that in our damage intake, we can easily counter it very, very quickly. Very cool. So we're going to jump back just a couple of seconds. Okay, here we go. Now, as you can see, these mobs have already pulled. So we're already behind, okay? In this situation as a tank, especially as a DK tank, we're already behind. These mobs, if I can go back just a couple of seconds to here. So we're waiting for Thrall to come down. Now, Sephiroth here, our tanker of this video, is actually well aware that he's about to have mobs spawn in front of him. Because we've done the dungeon before. We know this is going to happen. We're fully aware that it's about to happen. So he's gone ahead and positioned himself in a place where he can see the mobs spawning. Now, a Death Knight has the amazing ability, as does a Protection Paladin, to put down our AOE threat intake before they arrive. We're instantly ahead of the game. We are so far ahead of the threat issues, it doesn't even matter whatsoever. By putting a Death and Decay down now, we're already ahead of the game. We don't need to wait for the mobs to spawn. So what we'll actually see is the mobs are going to spawn. There's Death and Decay was ready then. We saw a message. There we go. And then we got struggled a little bit now because we haven't managed to do anything. The mobs have already started running around. They're going left and right all over the place. These mobs aren't being touched. But as we know, the DPSers are going to go full on in your face. They're going to be smashing balls, my friends. Remember, number one rule of being a tank every single time is assume everybody in your party is a fucking idiot. I cannot stress this enough. Anybody who asks me how do I get into tanking, easy. It doesn't matter if you're with friends. Friends make mistakes all the time. It doesn't matter if you're with a pug. The rule still applies. Everybody in your party is a fucking lunatic and they are geared to the teeth. It doesn't matter if they aren't. You predict that in your mind. And it makes life so much fucking easy. It makes life so much easier if you think, oh my god, I'm going to be up against people in item level 405 gear. Every DPS is going to have maximum heroic Dragon Soul level gear. They're going to DPS every single target in the universe, and my healer will never bother to heal me. He's probably in item level 300 gear, cheesing him with some PvP items in his bags. If you go in with that mindset, guess what? Your entire weight is lifted off your shoulders. Oh, it's so much freedom because you just know that's going to happen. And if anybody is less than that, which in general they will be, life is so much easier. We're just so much more relaxed. It's so easy. If I just go in with the mindset is, the DPSers will never attack my target. They will completely destroy the mobs and out aggro me. And my healer will never heal me. That is the worst thing that can possibly happen to you. That is the worst thing that can possibly happen. So all we need to do is just accept it. Yeah, just accept it. Okay, that could happen. So what? So what if that happens? I will play on the mindset that they will do that, and I will counter every situation beforehand. I will have the first tag on every single mob in this dungeon. I will have the sickest AOE threat in the goddamn universe, and I will clump up those mobs in a nice big tidy ball. So there is no way in hell, no matter what your gear is, it doesn't matter, you will never pull aggro off me. Very, very easy stuff to do, and it just makes tanking so much easier. So we've had this pull. So what we should have been doing here is had a Death and Decay down nice and early. Now we've got the Ranger who's attacking a random target. We've also got the Shadow Priest attacking a random target. We've got all sorts of crazy stuff going on. And we can see Sephiroth's counter to this is to get his dots on, which he should do, spread those dots, and in fact start heart striking. He started to heart strike, cleave his targets away, which I would not personally do. If I've got any more than 2 mobs, I'm blood boiling my balls off. I'm absolutely blood boiling my balls off every single day. Blood boil the hell out of it. We've still not had a Death and Decay on the floor. We've got some diseases ticking. Remember, diseases aren't major threat. They do buff our Death Strike and our Heart Strike and all that cool stuff, but they're not a amazing threat on their own. So we need more stuff going on. We need Blood Boil spamming away. We need Death and Decay on the floor. We need all this stuff going on all the time. So as we go on, we've actually gone on several seconds, and there's the first Blood Boil. The first Blood Boil came, I think, what's we on there? 2 minutes 41. Let's go back to 2 minutes 23. When are these mobs spawning? There's Death and Decay. Ready? Okay, so these mobs spawned at 2:32. It wasn't until 2:42, 10 whole seconds. That's a lot of global cooldowns before we tried to do some major AoE ability. We used a global cooldown on diseases. We used a global cooldown on heart striking to get the first 2 melee mobs, which is fine. But what we should be doing when we're in these situations is early. So important to be the earliest guy to the target. You need to be first every single time. If that hunter, this hunter, I did not see a misdirect on Sephiroth. Let's jump back in, just make sure. I'm pretty sure we saw no misdirect. No. So you've got a hunter here who's the first to DPS. We've got a Hunter who's the first DPS, and he's not doing any Mr. X whatsoever. Instantly, this is what you should have had in your mindset. You don't think when you go into these dungeons, I've got a Rogue, he's going to be giving me tricks of the trade. I've got a Hunter, he's going to give me Mr. X. Just assume that will not happen. Every single time, just assume that is not going to happen. And you're just going to be so much faster and so much more relaxed because you're not relying on anybody else. A tank should never rely on anybody else. There's one thing you care about in your dungeon when you're tanking, and that's your healer's mana. We really care about that. That is it. If our healers, quarter mana, and we need to judge the next pack, then we're going to wait for the healer. We don't care about DPS's mana, and the casters are going to be raging at me. What if I moon? Drink for one pack. No problem. We care about getting a nice smooth run through the dungeon. If I stop as a tank for any moment other than the healer, guess what? The other DPS will probably pull. Why? Because we assumed the other DPS were fucking morons, and then we have to tidy up the mess afterwards. I am not into tidying up mess. I am not into that. I don't want to tidy up mess. I want to predict the problem before it happens and deal with it. I know these mobs are going to spawn. Death and decay on the floor. As soon as they spawn, I'm running in and I'm blood boiling. I want aggro, aggro, aggro. Then I'll spread my diseases around. Then I'll start spreading some death strikes around and getting my blood shields up and all that kind of stuff. That's the way I'm going to roll, and I'm going to have a better time for it. So much better. So I'm pretty sure we're going to go through the sea. We've got mobs running everywhere now. This is the mess we get ourselves in as a tank. So we can see on here, the Hunter's got aggro. Our Holy Priest has got some aggro because we've missed the mob as well. And we've got aggro everywhere. Ugh, it's such a messy situation. It just feels terrible. It's like, oh God, I've got to clean up all this mess. And there's so much going on my UI. I struggle to sort of pick the mobs out. And it gets panicky. And then we end up sort of resorting to clicking. We can see this mouse, his mouse pointer is in fact floating around the screen, and he's generally spinning on the spot trying to get some semblance of order to all these mobs. And ultimately at the end of the fight, sure, you're going to start picking it up. You can see he's probably going to go for a death grip on this ranger. I assume that's why he's mouse over him. All cool. And then we end up stood like this with mobs attacking us from behind. I know this video was very stressing on threat. I just want to point this out. This is one of the horrible things you can do in a dungeon. This is really bad. If your healer is less than stellar, then when we turn our back to the two melee mobs, as we've done here, even if it's the death grip, we're going to have a bad time. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're going to have a bad time. So we could then death grip him back in, which is the good decision. What I'd like to do is keep facing these mobs and then just do maybe a jump death grip, or maybe just move him back, keeping frontal view all the time of those mobs, and then death gripping him in. All good. And then he finally gets them gathered up. Cool job by Sephiroth. In fact, he's doing so much damage. I think he's pretty well geared. Yeah, he's got 230k HP here. And you can see he's doing 20k AOE DPS without the use of death and decay and that kind of stuff. Plenty of damage coming out all the time. No big deal. Buttons are all being pressed. Everybody's a happy day. But we had that really awkward 10-second period. We had that really awkward 10-second period where the mobs were just running everywhere. People had aggro left and right. And it just feels like we're doing something wrong. The only thing we're doing wrong is we're not being proactive enough. We're not being fast enough. We're not predicting the problems before they start. If we were jumped in there with a death and decay, we wouldn't have had any of those problems whatsoever. If we would even just blood boiled as our first global cooldown, just to say, I need you, 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 and you. So look at me. Fear me. I am the big orc of death. I am Sephiroth, the arse cruncher. We wouldn't have run into any of those issues, and we would have just had a nicer time overall and kept everything nice and controlled. And been in a nice big death ball where we could have just had a happy time. All very cool. All pretty sweet. So let's look how we got on in the second pack. So we get a second pack quite quickly. I'll take a little drink. Be very wary of looting as a tank. I know it sounds retarded because, hell, it's your loot, right? And nobody likes leaving loot behind. Picking up that 19 silver, 11 copper that you just picked up there has caused the Warlock and everybody else to be in front of you besides the Hunter. In fact, the two DPSs are now ahead of you in getting to your target. You're instantly behind. You're already behind the target. You're behind. This is one of those things. I recommend if it's trash mobs, unless you're looking for a certain drop, is to ignore the shit out of it. Keep yourself ahead, and overall you'll have a better threat experience. It's not worth having a stressful time in a dungeon for 19 silver. Never has been, never will be. Happy Days gets in front, sneaks through under their barrier. Good man. And he knows these mobs are coming. How do we start here? Now, there was a blood boil there. Oh, it didn't hit anybody. Oh, no. Seth, I feel sorry for you, man. Oh, no, Seth. It's a sad sight to see. It's a sad sight to see. The blood boil, he was in there with the blood boil. He was like, fuck you, I'm going to blood boil your balls. I'm going to stamp all over your goddamn face. And the blood boil didn't hit anybody. Oh! Doesn't matter about the clicking. Doesn't matter. We're not interested in the clicking. It's the gameplay. But there he goes in with the blood boil. So he's got this blood boil off nice and early. And a death and decay. We're going to have a nice time. Okay, we've got aggro on everything straight off the bat. You can see they're not lighting up red on the left. No one's got aggro. Sure, Wolfie gets aggro every now and again, but for all we know, he's growling. No big deal. But the change in the setup then was absolutely perfect. And you can see, oh, Seth, you sexy bastard. This is a sexy maneuver. This is absolutely, for me, as a guy who loves how we play the game and just loves the abusing of mechanics and making everything so sexual, this little trick right here is absolutely the sexiest thing I've ever seen. We're looking here. We've jumped into the pack. We've got the 4 mobs. We've got snap aggro on them. We blood boiled it. We dropped a death and decay on it. Everybody is pissed off at this big orc with 232k HP. He's ready to stamp some nuts. Watch what Seth does like an absolute gangster. He repositions, so all the mobs are facing the back of the DPS. Oh, that's good. Drink it in. Good. That is so, so cool, okay? If you have good threat, you can see the difference here straight away. We went from pack number 1. We didn't get a blood boil off. We didn't get a death and decay off. Mobs were everywhere. We panicked. We forgot our basics. The basics of tanking. If you don't know the basics of tanking, Mike Preachwow, youtube.com. Basics of tanking, I think the video is called. Positioning. Every 2 damn seconds while you are tanking, you are thinking to yourself, is this the best position for these guys to kill my mobs? Always. You are always thinking that in your mind. Absolutely fantastic. This little move right here that we're watching, this reposition, so that all these 4 mobs are now facing Seth and not facing the DPS, is absolute class, and that is a sign of a brilliant tank in the making. What you can see with Sephiroth's play is the difference in these 2 pulls is on pull number 2, he got his blood boiled down. Yeah, he missed the first one, but who cares? He instantly reacted, moved forward, blood boiled again, then got his death and decay down. He hasn't even bothered with diseases, okay? Diseases are non-factor, but look how much more comfortable he is. Look how much more relaxed he is, and then he decides, you know what I should do? I should reposition these mobs, so I've got a great DPS ball, a death ball for the guys to play with, and they can nuke the hell out of it. Remember, his melee DPS. What did we say at the beginning? Your group is full of idiots. You will have Ret Paladins, you will have DKs, you will have Warriors, you will have melee classes and rogues alike who will not understand that they need to DPS from behind. They don't know that. They don't understand. They don't care. They think they're having fun by doing shit DPS. They don't understand what parry is. That's okay, because you're the tank who can say, you know what, it doesn't matter if you don't know, because I have turned the mobs away from you, and you, without even realising it, are doing more damage. Your run's going faster. So much more happiness comes from this. People think that, oh, it's only trash. Doesn't fucking matter. You understand what I'm saying to you? It's important. By doing this maneuver, it doesn't matter how bad your DPSs are in your group. It doesn't matter, because you have naturally increased the DPS of that group. Some mobs have frontal cone AOEs. No longer a factor. All that crap is going to be breathed all over you. And you can soak it in. You can be like, oh, bring the noise. I don't care. And naturally bad players have now increased their DPS passively without even realising it. Doesn't matter. Because you fixed the problem. You fixed the problem. So cool. Good job, Seth. That is baller to the max. I've got to skip ahead because I have no doubt you have absolutely no issues on this trash pack whatsoever. This is baller. Super baller play. Really love it. Maybe we can start working on some interrupts. No big deal. You started Heart Striking away. I wouldn't bother too much with Heart Strike. Heart Strike, yeah, gives you troll-all DPS. That's for damn sure. But remember, we're a tank. We're there about survivability. Even though we're not going to die in this dungeon, yeah, that's fine and fair enough. I'd like just to see constant Death Strike spam. If you could Death Strike, drop that Death Strike. Just give yourself a little bit more survivability. I'm just going to look at one more boss first before we go to part 2, which will be the Shadow Priest. I think we've made the point. Is bosses like this are troll face. Now, you guys will sympathise with me. Say it with me. How many people know the mechanic to this boss fight? Asira Dawnslayer. How many people know the mechanic of this fight to allow casters to DPS? Go comments. I want to hear it in the comments. Stand behind the tank. Almost there. Almost there. Ooh, it's not just stand behind the tank. Come on, come on, come on. No, you're close. You're close. Not stand behind the hunter. Yeah! Timber 2005 drops the fucking A-bomb. Absolute fucking A-bomb. Timber, you baller, you hero. You stand behind a melee player. I guarantee you that people will not do that. You stand behind a melee player. Yeah, you can stand, as Sparker says, you can stand behind anybody. And I have seen people who troll other people in DPS like it matters in Heroic, but I have very many times seen a Warlock stand behind a Mage and make that Mage suffer endlessly while he trolls away the DPS. Don't do that. You want to stand behind a melee DPS. If you don't know why you're always getting silenced on this fight, and I'm sure people who watch my channel will just think, this fight sucks, I always get silenced. That's cool, because you're not really reading the description. This is what happens, is Asira will put a target on you and she will throw a dagger at you, similar to a rogue's deadly throw, and that will silence you. It is blocked by players that are in front of you. You want to stand behind a melee, or a hunter, or a tank constantly throughout this fight, and your DPS will not suffer. Very cool. So we want to see if Seth takes into account that the casters probably don't know that. Who's our caster? A Warlock. Let's see, he's marked. Where's the Warlock? I can't actually see him on your UI, Seth. That makes you a massive baller. Not really, makes you suck. Reposition. Where's that Warlock? Okay, so the Warlock knows behind it. Now, little tip for you guys on this. He's tanking of a boss, he's fine. Threat is all good. No big fucking deal whatsoever. We're not bothered about that. Although Wolfie died, sad face, probably was growling. That's the hunter's fault. If you have casters in your group who don't know this, and healers especially, I'm sure some tanks have actually gone ahead and died on this fight and been like, how can I die on this fight? This dude hits me for nothing at all. He hits me for, I'm absorbing most of the damage. I've absorbed a full hit there. How can I die? It's because your healer's getting silenced all the time. Your priority when you're tanking this fight in particular, yeah, I know it's an easy heroic. It's all about mechanics. Because remember, Mr. Pandaria is coming. Some mechanics are a little bit tricky. The heroic videos are coming up in about a day or so on my channel. Is you should be, as the tank, again, taking control of this situation. If you see that there is a caster DPS who just hasn't got a clue and he stands there silenced, there's nothing sadder than a Moonkin who can't DPS because they have their arms by the side and they're all... Is you should take control. You should reposition yourself to make sure those caster DPS can cast. Very easy. There's nothing worse. It's the saddest sight in the world is a Moonkin who can't DPS. It makes me fucking cry so hard. And you guys can fix that situation. Yeah, sad Moonkins. You guys know what it is. Sad Moonkins. It's about as close to a Moonkin as you can get with little Gizmo. So yeah, as a tank again, you can clear that situation. We're going to flick through this dungeon very, very quickly just to see if there's anything else worth picking up on. We're going to have that huge, huge ride. Then we land here. Yeah. The worst RP in the universe. Cancels your focus target and all that good stuff. Now, this bothers me a little bit, and again, this is getting back to the problems you've been having overall with AOE threat, is you can see the black cloud forming. We can see that the ads are about to spawn. There should be a death and decay all over their balls. They should be more diseased than an Indian takeaway right all over there right now. You should not be stood this far away. You should have your death and decay down, and you should be ready for that initial blood boil. As soon as you see those targets, you should blood boil the crap out of them straight away. And there you go, you're good to go. You've already got the target. You've already got snap threat on them straight away. Absolutely fantastic stuff. No diseases whatsoever. Cool, but we see we've run into this situation by delaying our start where the mobs have moved out the death and decay, so your death and decay is now useless. We're running around like a blue-ass fly trying to fix it. We're also trying to be the baller and get to the shadow borer so we can do the interrupts. So we've had to move away, we've then had to get some aggro, then we've had to drag it all the way back again to try and get to the shadow borer. Where we want to be stood is right next to the shadow borer before they spawn. We want the death and decay down, we want a blood boil straight off the bat. We want all that stuff. It's just about being prepared. There's nothing wrong with your threat abilities. That's what I want to get out of this video. There is nothing wrong whatsoever with your threat abilities. Your threat abilities are absolutely fine and dandy. Nothing wrong at all, Seth. And in fact, your general gameplay is fine. It's about being first and being fast. And you might feel like you're rushing, and occasionally you'll have a healer who says, why the rush? I died several times on Mr. Pandaria Beta in the Heroics with healers with full mana who just stood still after a boss. That's not your problem. You want to make sure that the beginning is fine. Because once the beginning is fine, everything else follows on naturally, as we saw in pack number 2 earlier in the video. It was all easy times, all happy days, no big deal whatsoever. Just being there first. Death and Decay can be put down and last quite a long time. It's like 10 seconds, I think, or 8 seconds. That's plenty of time for them to get the initial aggro. We don't care about our DPS. We're not asked about our DPS. We're the tank. Well, if them mobs stay alive forever, sure, we're going to start doing a ton of DPS. Our diseases are going to start ticking, whatever. We just want that initial aggro, because after that, aggro in World of Warcraft just does not matter. It doesn't matter. Look at your threat meter. Look at this threat meter. It's ridiculous. You have 707,000k threat. The closest to you has 95k. Absolutely insane threat these days. Really crazy threat. It doesn't matter. So the solution to this gameplay is quite simple. Be a little bit more proactive with your Death and Decay. If you've got multiple mobs spawning, get that Blood Boil off really, really fast. So you've instantly got the aggro. Then go ahead and just play around with the mobs. Keep your Death Strikes rolling and rocking and rolling. And clean up your UI. That would be awesome. I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to do some Shadow Priest action. Some awesome Shadow Priest action, guys. I hope that is. If you got any questions, Seth, or any other Blood DKs out there who have any questions whatsoever. Paulie PJ, great to see you, pal. Not seen you for a while. Absolute hero. Anything else there? Or is that helpful to you? Are you seeing just the small issues there? And maybe then go and maybe do another run and submit it to me again, and we'll see if you have a much easier time. That's what we would like to see. Okay. Everybody looks happy and good. Cool. So 5 minutes. Then we're going to look at a Shadow Priest. You take it easy, ballers.